What's up, YouTube? Hello, everybody. This is I say everybody, there's two people watching. Hello, you two. This is a very quick impromptu live stream. I'm just going to answer a couple of questions, have a little bit of a chat, and test a new feature ahead of the live stream tomorrow. I'm going to do a new format for the live stream tomorrow. I want to make it a bit more of a show, its own show. So there's like a number of features that I'm running, and I need to test something today. Lots of people in the house. Ian Rodbert, Ian, how are you, my man? Just another reefer and Mick D'Souza as well. Look at this, loads of people coming in. 36 already, and we've only been on a minute. Right. If you've got any questions, chuck them down and we'll have a chat. But I'm going to test a feature. And I'll wait until there's like 100 people or something watching, and we'll just have a little bit of a chat. So what's going on? Everyone's just saying hello, everybody. Liam, how are you, my friend? And Jay's Real Reef. I love it. This is I do this. I sit there like flicking through YouTube, like going back into it every 10 seconds, and if something pops up, I'm on it. So I'm glad to see other people are the same. Vinny's Fish House says Kalkwasser is king. Oh, hi, Kalkwasser king, in fact. Kalkwasser is king. I agree. And yeah, where's the guy with the naked portraits behind him? He doesn't know about this, but Ryan is a sneaky type. And I bet he'll find this, and he'll be typing in the chat any minute now. He'll be like, why aren't they invited? So we'll see. Southern California. Cool. Gibraltar. Right. Mick D'Souza is kicking us off. Will a mandarin fish eat Bergia nudibranchs? Wouldn't have thought so. Never kept Bergias. I've never had any nudibranchs in my tank, but I wouldn't have thought so. No, I'd Google it. If you see anybody who's done that and who's experienced it, then there's your answer. But I'd be surprised. They'll eat things like tiny little flatworms, from what I understand. Although I bought one, I had a Porites coral that was covered in these flatworms. They were benign. They didn't cause any problems, and they were just on this one frag. And I bought I had a what's it called? The scarlet mandarin in there, scarlet dragonet. And I was wondering if it was going to eat the flatworms, but it never did. And I think I tried blowing them off with a turkey baster to get them into the water column. I can't remember if I actually did that or if I just thought about it, but he never ate them. So I don't know. Apparently that's the way to get wrasse to eat flatworms, is turkey baste them off so they go into the water column and they'll eat them. But will a mandarin fish eat a Bergia nudibranch? Probably not, I would guess. But like I say, Google it and see if you can find anyone else who has experienced that. Damiantos D. How old do you say Kalkwasser is the biggest positive change? Would you say Kalk is the biggest positive change you've made to your tank in the last few years? Is up there. Is Kalkwasser the biggest positive change? It's the biggest single event that I've changed. It's not the sole reason. It's not the silver bullet. If you're looking for one thing because your tank isn't quite right and you're a bit frustrated, like my Fluval Evo is not looking very good at the moment. There's loads of algae. My nitrates have just bottomed out. My phosphates are quite high. So it doesn't fix a bad tank. It doesn't fix tanks that have crappy growth or poor colors, but it has made a noticeable difference. Polyp extension on my SPS was crazy. Very soon after starting Kalkwasser, within weeks, and at the point when the pH was going through the sky. And actually, when I look back and did before and after photos a couple of months apart, the color was much improved as well. So it's not like it's night and day and you absolutely must dose Kalkwasser. If not, then you're going to have no success whatsoever. But yeah, for sure, it's probably one of the biggest single things I've done that's made a positive change. Because sometimes you experiment, don't you? You'll think, you know what, let me try phytoplankton or Reef-Roids or trace elements, all these little things that you think, let's see if this is the one thing that my tank is missing that could make all the difference. And it never bloody is. And it doesn't tend to make a huge difference. Sometimes you'll find something like that does. And with me, Kalkwasser is the only thing that I've tried where I thought, wow, I'm staying with this. Like, I've fed corals before, all sorts of different coral foods, never noticed a huge difference in them. I've done it fairly long term. But then I've got SPS. If you feed LPS, if you feed pellets to LPS, things like scullies, they bloody love it. So it's a bit of a broad statement to say that the coral food hasn't necessarily made a huge difference, but you know what I mean. James Glavey, question: taking your advice and wanting to start dosing manganese, how do I know how much to dose and how much my corals use? Let me have a quick sip of hot chocolate while I mull that over. Really do an ICP test. That's what I did. But the chances are, ICP test. Yeah, the chances are it'll come back as 0. Ooh, hello. In fact, do you know what? Let me share my screen and see if I can show you my most recent ICP test. This may not tell me what I want it to tell me, show you what I want it to show you, but I'm going to take a punt and just share my screen anyway and see what happens. Share screen, entire screen, that one, bomb. Whoop. Right, okay, so this is my most recent one. In fact, these are 3 in a row. So which one is the most recent one? On the left hand side, manganese. There it is, 0. In fact, on the last 3 it's been 0. I think the ICP on the right that my mouse is over now, I think that was on my second tank. I can't want to move it to that tank on the app, but there you go. So my manganese has always been 0. Let's get rid of that. My manganese has always been 0. So do an ICP. The best thing to do really is do an ICP test just to make sure. The chances are it'll be 0. I look back, I think, at my other ICP test, and it's always been 0, or very, very low, at least from memory. But do an ICP test and then dose a load. I say a load, start slowly, dose some, and then do another ICP test a week later and see if it changes. But from what I understand, it's likely to be 0 on most ICP tests. I'll be interested to see a survey of people who, in fact, if you've done an ICP test, do me a favor and go and check it now to make sure you're not just misremembering. Check your ICP test and put in the chat what your manganese level is, and let's see how many people have a manganese level. So yeah, but I think really the chances are it's going to be 0. I'm trying to say this a little bit cautiously because I think it's probably right, but I don't want you to just plow on and just throw caution to the wind. But I think the chances are it's going to be 0, and you'll find that just dosing a small amount doesn't lift it up. And so you can see I've done 2, I think, ICP tests, and these are both November 2022. Yeah, these are both since I've started dosing manganese, and it's still not showing anything. And I dose 2 milliliters per day, 1 milliliter per day on my main tank, which is a 450 liter roughly water volume. So it doesn't seem to do anything, and seem to make it doesn't seem to increase it. So you don't have to worry about overdosing it. And from what I understand, again, I don't know this, but from what I understand, it's very difficult to overdose the stuff. But then when you start looking into why that happens, it gets a bit sciencey, and I'm not very sciencey. So, Ian Rodber, how are you finding the Reef Factory gear, and are you getting a smart tester? So I currently have a smart feeder on trial. I don't feed pellet food, so it's not doing my day-to-day feeding, but I'm going to make a video hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, might be a bit longer, but it's really good actually. It's not that, it's 90 quid. I thought it was going to be 130. It's 90 quid, which for a Wi-Fi smart feeder is pretty reasonably priced. It's very similar, in fact, it's very similar to the Eheim single auto feeder. I've had one of these for years. They're brilliant. They run like clockwork, because they run on clockwork. They're reliable, they're solid, the battery lasts forever, and they are very good. And it looks almost identical. So it's based on that, which is a good thing. These are cheap. So if you don't have the money for a smart feeder, just get one of these off eBay, and they'll do you good. But it is a good bit of kit from what I can see so far. But I'll make a video when I've had a proper play with it, because I've not really gone with it. The lights, I'm going to make a video soon. I'm halfway through that video, so I'll update you on that when I've had a proper look. Am I getting a smart tester? Yes, I am. I don't know when. Apparently, it's quite close according to the Reef Factory family group, but don't know yet. How are the new lights? Yeah, so they're keeper. You know what I realised, because I'm selling my kettles. I was trying to work out how old they are, and it's exactly a year since I bought them. So I change every year. It's like an annual. It must be like an internal alarm that goes off, and I'm like, new lights. But yeah, so the new lights I'm going to tell you in a video, because I don't just want to say, oh yeah, they're great, or oh no, they're not that great. I want to give full detail. And my reviews, I'm going to be doing reviews on the Reef Talk Extra channel. I'm not going to do any product reviews on the main channel. And I want those reviews to be the gold standard in the hobby. to be completely impartial. Even these were quite expensive and they were given to me, but this is going to be an impartial review, and I want those reviews to be really reliable, so really useful information for hobbyists. So I'm going to do a proper job on it. So you will see in due course. Why the sudden live stream? I just want to test a feature ahead of the live stream tomorrow. And my missus is out, so I thought, well, let's have a chat with some fellow fish nerds. Oh, excellent question, ML Rubber. Would an AI blade work on a Fluval Evo? Good or bad idea? I'll tell you when I've installed mine. So this is a rare sight. You see this? This is a new product, and I paid for it myself. Wow. YouTuber who actually bought something. Incredible. Very unusual. So this is, I plan on putting it on that tank. Because for a start, so I currently have the AI Prime, which is perfectly good. It's nothing wrong with it, but this is a quiet room. This is my work from home room, and obviously it's my YouTube studio. And the fan does come on from time to time. Whoop. The fan comes on from time to time, and it's not loud. It's quiet, but I don't like any noise in this room, so I want to get rid of that. And this thing just has a heatsink, so there's no fan. And also, because it's a single puck there, I get some spots. So at the far end of the tank, it doesn't get quite so much light, and at this side of the tank, there's it's just the lighting. It's just not very evenly smoothed out, basically, because it's such a small tank. So I think this will be really good at that job. I'm currently trying to work out how to mount it, and actually, let me show you. I've designed. If you haven't got a 3D printer, and you've got a reef tank, they're just so bloody good. But let me show you. So I've designed this mount for it. So, okay, so the plan is this bit on the left-hand side will slide over the top of the end of the existing bracket that's like that. So it will just slide over to the top like that. And then there's an 8mm hole at this end. And in theory, that should be able to bolt onto the AI blade. Now that's a first attempt at a design, so I'm just going to print it off, see how it looks, and I'll make my mind up after that. But yes, I think it's a brilliant light for that tank, because it's I think this is 20 watts, 22 watts, whereas that's double the power. Whoop, that's double the power, and you don't need 45 watts on a tank like that. You just don't. I'm just getting a load of algae at the moment. So you don't need that much power, and that's only at like 50% anyway. So this is a much more sensibly powered light, which means you won't be able to blast your tank with light. You won't be able to accidentally give too much light. I think from what I've seen from all the reviews, that it gives quite a smooth spread. Although I'll tell you completely honestly how it is, and I'll show you everything. But I suspect that will be the case. So yes, I think it will be a really good light. The only thing I don't like about it so far, I had a look at the boxes in the shop, and this is the Grow, so the one with white lights. There's a Grow and a Glow, and it has royal blue, which I think is 470 nanometers, and cool white lights. I think that's it. Where's my box? Yeah, it has. Yeah, cool white, royal blue, and blue. So that's not a very broad spectrum. And in terms of coral health, as far as I'm concerned, corals will be fine. They'll adapt to it. It's not like I need to turbocharge growth in a tank like that anyway. So that's not a problem. But just I wonder if it might look a bit basic. And really, I think ideally you'd have two. But there's no way I'm having two on that tank. That'd be okay. And when I say two, I mean one of the Grow and one of the Glow, because the Glow, stupid names. Why have they called them such similar names? The Glow has the other three, or has two of the other LEDs that ideally you would want in this. So I'd really like a full spectrum and not just a Grow or a Glow. But I think this one will be the best bet, because actually this has got the same LEDs. And this is from my research a few months ago, so I might have forgotten. But this has got the same LEDs as the AI Sol, and the AI Sol is a really good look. It looks cool. So yes, ML Rubber, I think it's a fantastic idea, potentially. But this is the other thing. It's not heavy, but it's not light. So I do wonder how that's going to get on and how I'm going to mount it. And it does come with these the tank mounts that sit right on top of the tank, but I think that looks awful, and access is a problem. And anytime you go to, so I've got a lid on that, of course, anytime I go to take the lid off, I've got to move the light out of the way, and don't like the idea. The only other thing I'll say about it, because I haven't even turned it on yet. Well, actually I have. I've not even put it up yet. The wires. So when Telegram got hold of one of these early on, the cabling was like, it was pulling out. You could see the bare wires underneath. And on this one anyway, can you see it? No, not really. But on this, you have to take my word for it. On this one, they appear to have fixed that, so better quality control. Although there's a couple of, it looks at like the finish on the edge looks, if you look really close, I'm being finicky, picky here, it looks a little bit rough. It almost looks like it's dirty. I'll explain better when I do the review, but it's not, it doesn't matter. You hardly notice it unless you look really close. Bodyguard 56. I have GCSE in a few weeks. We did a mock exam and it was about the nitrogen cycle. Oh, awesome. And you got an A star. Cool. Well done. I imagine that, a nitrogen cycle. Cool. Don't remember ever studying that. When I was at uni. Have you tried Reef-Roids? Yeah. Phosphate in a tub. Don't like it. It's just not for me. And yeah, I'm sure it does make corals grow faster and all that stuff, but it's just not for me. I don't like it. I like, if I'm going to feed corals, I don't really like to broadcast feed. I do like the Red Sea Reef Energy, which I use from time to time, but I don't have any at the moment. I've not used it for a while, but I prefer to target feed than broadcast feed because I don't want to feed everything in my tank. I don't want to feed all the Aptasia, all the, what they call the vermitid snails. I don't want to feed, I just want to feed the corals. And okay, there's going to pollute the water a little bit because you're adding in more nitrogen, but no, I don't like Reef-Roids personally. It's been a long time since I've used it. Lee Homewood. Alex, I started, right, we're almost at 100 people, so I'll do the test in a minute. Alex, I started dosing Calcluster 3 months ago and have recently calibrated my Refactory pH probe 3 times. It's now reading 8.67. Is this possible? If it's a newish probe, it should be fine. Less than a year, it should be fine. If it's older than a year, my pH probe, how old was it? At least a year, maybe 18 months, started going a bit haywire, both of them. And it was reading really high, like 9.2. And I thought there was something wrong with it. I contacted Refactory and then I replaced it and it was fine. So it was just an old probe that was knackered. So is it possible? It's entirely possible. In fact, it's so possible. I'm going to show you what my current pH is. Let's have a look on my main tank. 8.57. There you go. So, I mean, 8.67 is quite a lot more. But let's see how this goes up to. Peak yesterday, 8.64. There you go. And is it dangerous? Well, my corals are okay. The thing, so with pH, everybody says you don't want it too low. 7.7 is the point. Below 7.7, supposedly, according to Randy Holmes Farley, is the point at which it's going to start dissolving your coral skeleton. And that is bad. Okay. So everybody will say you don't want it that low. But I've never found anyone who will commit to saying, this is the point, 8.4, 8.5, 8.8, whatever, is the point at which you don't want to go any higher. And Chummingham's Reef runs his insanely high, like over 9, with calibrated, correct pH probes. So, and his tank looks amazing. But I personally would feel nervous with it at that high. And I did start to get nervous with it when I first started at like 8.6, 8.7. But it's been fine. So I don't know. I can't tell you, but all I can tell you is my tank's okay. And I don't think I'd be stressing about it too much. Danny's Aquarium is in the house. Danny, how are you? Best pump for dosing all for reef. Any of them, really. There's a relatively cheap one because you only need one pump, of course. What is it? DD. What the hell was that? Oh, hang on. 3D printer issue. 2 seconds. Right. There's a relatively cheap one. Sorry, just a bit of acrylic fell off the top of it. There's a relatively cheap one. I think it's a DDP1, something like that. That's, I don't know, 60, 80 quid. That's probably fine. It's nice and small, so it's neat, so you don't need a load of space either. But any of them will be fine, really. I wouldn't spend crazy money. If you've got a bigger budget, the more money you spend on a dosing pump, the more features you get. But if it's just all for reef, just something basic will do. So I wouldn't go too crazy. Oh, here we go. ICP tests result. Manganese is 0. James Glavey, manganese is 0. Jay's Real Reef dosed it for 6 months. Hasn't got a clue about his levels. Okay. Tried and don't measure it. Really interesting. But Jay's Real Reef tank has not crashed. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to assume it's 0 as well on no real basis. Paul Lewis, most of my advice success is down to your advice. Thanks for the last 2 years. Thanks. Well, nice of you saying. Good to hear. George Dunn. I'm dosing Triton. Is 8mm per day on each element. Is there certain times of the day to dose? So I've never dosed Triton, but I presume you mean like just calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. Certain times of day to dose. I only when lights are on or over 24 hours, 12-hour lights, 12 hours. Thanks. I dose over 24 hours, but I've fine-tuned it. It doesn't really. 24 hours is fine. Also, overnight is fine during the day. It doesn't really matter. I've never noticed a significant difference. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Start with 24 hours because it's smoother. But what I found on my main tank when I started playing around with it was that my alkalinity, I found when I dosed alkalinity overnight, all my dosing overnight, it was smoother. My alkalinity curve was smoother than when I was dosing it 24/7, which is really counterintuitive because the corals aren't uptaking any of it. You wouldn't have thought because they're not photosynthesizing overnight. But that was what I found. And I was using an automatic tester set every hour. So yeah, maybe overnight is the way to go. But to be honest, 24 hours is the way I would probably suggest. And when you're getting into the minutiae of whether you dose it overnight or during the day or 24 hours, I think it's not, you're into marginal gains if you're lucky. Andy Angel, 0.79. Is that manganese? Maybe. Mine is undetectable, says one arm bubbly. I don't know. What is going on? Is it Sunday? No, it's not. I'm going to do a test. In fact, I'm going to do the test now. And the whole point of this test is this Q&A feature. Ask, do you know what, question time. I'm going to try this Q&A feature because I didn't really understand how it worked last time. And so I just want to have a look and see how it goes. Ask any questions below. Start Q&A. Right. So now I've started this Q&A. I just want to see how it works. And tell me how it looks to you. In fact, I should be able to see it. But yeah, I've started a Q&A thing. That's a YouTube live stream feature, and I want to see how that works because the plan is to do on the live stream a Q&A session on every one. Won't be long, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe, but use this feature to do that. And Luke Hargreaves says it looks good. Do you know what? Let me go on to my own mobile phone and I'll log in to this live stream as a different person, Reef Dork Extra, and I will see. There we go. Quick live chat. Mute that. Ask something. Hi, Reef Dork. How come you're so fit? Let's post that. Okay, question sent. All right, there we go. So I think all it does is all it does. It probably isn't very interesting watching. All it does is it aggregates questions into that section, and it keeps them away from the main chat because that question hasn't come up on my chat screen, which is wicked because this is basically what I've been trying to do in the last couple of weeks. Like some people have put question in block capitals before they ask question, and that helps me see where the questions are. And this is basically the same thing, only a little bit more sophisticated. Let's see if I can select one of these questions. Go to channel, put user in timeout, select question. Oh, select question. What does that do? Does it do anything? Oh, yes, it pins it. Let's have a look. Oh, right, wicked. So I can pin it, and then you can all see it in the chat. So there we go. And I should be able to deselect that as well. Close question. There we go. Yeah, that's it. That's how it works. Looks like how you do. Looks like the polls you do. Lol. Hi, Chaz. I put in time up. Remove report. Select question. Go to channel. Let's go to channel. See what that does. One-armed reefer. You have 17 videos and 51 subs. Your name is Lee. Cool. All right. There you go. I'm gonna end that chat. How do I end it? End Q&A. Let's see if anyone's asked any questions. Who won the cup final in 1976? Says James Cremononi. Well, Southampton, my team, the Mighty Saints, who are going to be in the Championship next season, won it in 1976. 67, Aston Villa, I'm going to guess, because they were successful in the cup back in those days. Other questions. How long do you run your lights for? 12 hours on all tanks. Why do you keep magnesium so low? Yeah, it was at 12 something. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's at the past it's been 1280, which I think is about right. But there we go. So I don't know if 12 was it 1220 on the ICP. I don't know if that's accurate as an ICP. but normally it's about 1280, I think. Although I tested recently with a Red Sea test kit, and it was really high. Like I think it was definitely over 1400. It was maybe over 1500, and I thought that's odd. And it was on all 3 tanks, and it felt like that was a false result. But there you go. And Fabio Silva, and I'm going to select that question as well so you can all see it. It says, will copepods and other small critters in the refugium eventually make their way into the tank? Yeah, in theory they do. They just go through. But I don't really know. You can get something called a pod hotel, copepod hotel. It's basically just an enclosed thing that they are attracted to and go and sit in. And you leave that in there, and then you move it and put it into your tank, and then they'll go out and they'll swim free and get eaten. So that's I don't know if they actually do naturally go through. You can't really see, you can't watch them, can you? You can't sit by your sump and watch a copepod go back up your return pump. So I don't know if they do. I've got loads of copepods and amphipods in my main display tank, but I don't know if they just live there and they live in the rocks, or if they come up from the sump. I think they probably do go up from the sump, but it's not something that I don't think you can really check it. Are you from Southampton? I am from Southampton. I grew up in a village called Shirrell Heath, about 10 miles outside of Southampton. And the last question I'm going to answer: how big is a tank for a 624 square foot apartment, considering all the storage needed besides the tank? 600. I mean, the apartment size is irrelevant, really. The size that you want to know about is the room it's going in. My living room is 4 meters squared, probably smaller. So what's that? 12 foot squared. Is that right? That sounds small. 12 foot. Yeah, probably it is. Bloody hell. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. Anyway, and I've got a massive tank in there, and it does look a bit big. It looks too big for the room, to be honest. But hey. Right. Any advice for flatworms? Flatworm exit is good. Oh, well, I say it's good. I'm just going to end this Q&A. How do you do that? How do you do that? Flatworm exit supposedly is good. I can't work out how to end it. How do you end the question? Here we go, up there. No, I don't know how to do that. Sorry, the whole point of this live chat is to work this Q&A sesh thing out. So I want to work out how to do this. Let's close that question and then end Q&A. There we go. So flatworms, yeah. Wrasses eat flatworms. Flatworm exit supposedly, well, it will kill them, but you've got to be careful, because if you've got a million flatworms and flatworm exit wipes them all out, they release toxins. So you need to remove as many as you can before you do that. Run activated carbon, do a big water change straight afterwards, all those sorts of things. But Google it is the honest best answer. That is all I wanted to do today. We're at half an hour, so I'm just going to go through and have a look at some questions and see if there's anything else going on. What lights have you got now? Reef Factory, Reef Flare, Pro, M, Blue Spectrum. I got 4 of the bastards, which is far too many, but they were free, so playing with house money. Have you had aluminium showing on your ICP? I don't think so, but I've not noticed. I don't really pay much attention to ICPs, but aluminium is removed by Roaphos, and Roaphos has levels of iron, so sometimes the iron might creep up, and that is removed by aluminium-based phosphate remover. So you can just swap over if you're concerned. What do you feed clownfish? Anything, basically, but I feed all of my fish mysis shrimp. How's your tank doing after the low salinity? So they all, I don't know if I mentioned this, I think I did on a live stream, they all had low salinity, which is so weird. It's the only thing I can think is I did a water change on all of them with fresh water, because otherwise how would they all reduce the salinity? But I can't believe I'd do that. I just can't believe it. But anyway, they're fine. So the LPS tank is completely recovered and is looking better than ever. The gonnies are looking fantastic at the moment. The Fleavel Evo has completely recovered, didn't really ever show any major signs, nor really did the LPS tank. This is completely recovered. It's got nutrient issues. The main tank, some of the SPS are still sulking. Most of them, it's fine. And if you came in and saw it for the first time, you wouldn't know. But there are a couple of corals that I noticed first looking really stressed that still haven't completely recovered. So it's generally fine, and it's recovered now for the most part, but everything isn't back to perfect. So it probably wasn't the best time to change lights either, when corals are already stressed and now they've got to deal with something else. But give it a few months and I suspect everything will be back to tip top. just get her AI brackets and put it at the end of the aquarium. You might be talking to someone else. Bobby Guard question. What would you say is an inappropriate size tank for a Refugium? For example, is it excessive to make one in a fluval evo chamber? I thought about putting one in there. I was going to use the Tunzi, what's it called? The Tunzi 8831 Refugium light, because they're wicked. But I decided against it because it's just water changes and a bit of Roaphos is all I need in that tank, and a little filter sponge that goes in there. You can see it there, a little white thing. That's all you need for nutrient control on a tank like that. So it's probably overkill, but give it a bash and see how it goes. The good thing is with that on a small tank is that if you can put it on a timer, you can get a relative amount of control, because for example, you can have it so it's on, the Refugium light is on for 1 hour, and then you run that for a couple of weeks and see if your nitrates are reducing. If they're not, put it on for 2 hours. And it might take you a couple of months to get to the point where it's balanced out. You might never get it balanced out, but you can do it. You can check in. So I don't think there's any reason why it wouldn't work, but that's theory, and I've never done it. I had it on my 150 litre tank, and that was totally fine. Anything with a sump, it's dead easy. Anything without a sump, are you going to get strands escaping and ending up in the display tank and getting clogged in your power heads and maybe your return pump? Don't know. Give it a crack and see how it goes. Just use 50% infill. I'm using 30 or 20% infill because I want it to be light, because this part of the mount is what it's going on, and this isn't. It's strong enough, but I don't want it to have too much weight to do. But this is just a first test print, so we will see. 3D printers, man, they're just so awesome. I just bloody love them. I'm printing something else as well. I can't find it. But yeah. Do you soak your frozen foods in anything? No, I do not. I just whack them straight in. I defrost them in tank water and then throw them in, or sometimes I put them in the little fish feeder. Where is it? I haven't got it up here. So because the copper band gets more when I do it that way. So no, I never do. I used to. And then you start reading about it, and it's like, oh, is there a load of phosphate in there that you should be getting rid of, and is that bad? Or is there a load of good stuff in there that should be going in the tank anyway and benefiting the corals? And at the end of the day, I just think sod it. Just chuck it in because it's easy. It doesn't seem to cause any major problems. And if there is excess phosphate, you can remove that or feed less. Are you still trying to lower phosphate on your main tank? Well, kind of. But I've taken my foot off the eye off the ball with that a little bit. So in theory I am, but really if I'm going to do that, I need to commit to testing phosphate every week. And I always forget. And then when I remember, I can't be bothered. So yes and no. And the thing is that it looks so good anyway that I'm not really bothered. If the tank looked like dog poo and all my corals were brown or weren't growing, I'd be on it. But it looks pretty awesome. Recognize Philip, you Philia are retracted for over a year. My pH was 7.7. Watch your calc video, got my pH to 8. Finally, there you go. You feel extended again. Wicked. So there you go. Yeah, pH is for real. UV sterilizer for a Red Sea Reefer 45XL, the biggest one you can get your hands on. What's the Troptronic or Toptronic, something like that. UV sterilizer is the one I go for. They're bloody expensive, and the bulbs, my god, if you thought the bulbs are over 200 quid, but there's a 55 watt and an 80 watt, I think, something like that. The 55 watt is about that big. Any other UV sterilizer that is 55 watt is bloody enormous, because I think it uses a metal halide bulb or something. It looks similar anyway. So if you can stomach the cost, get a 55 watt or an 80 watt if you can stretch. Toptronic, whatever it is, because they're wicked. But basically the biggest one you can fit in there. And one of those Eheim ones, I don't have it up here, the Eheim ones that looks quite big, and they're rated for tanks up to 800 litres. They're only about 11 watts, I think, or 22 watts maybe a push. So they're not actually that much. So you want the bigger, the better. But the trouble is UV sterilizers are big, and that's the problem. So biggest one you can afford, and the biggest one you can fit. But it also depends what you're dealing with, I suppose. Jay's Will Reef, one of your fish loves to swim to the surface. Is it a firefish? No, that is a clownfish. So I've only got 3 fish in there. There's this little guy down here where you can just about see him. There's like a slither, a white line. That's a Wheeler's goby, and he just stays there all day. He's such a wimp. If I get close to the tank, and he's been in there 6 months, he still panics and darts back in. But no, the others are snowflake clownfish, something like that, I think. Have your clowns ever produced fry? They produce eggs in my main tank. They lay eggs all the time. I've not seen it for a while. I'm not paying much attention, but they lay eggs all the time, probably every month. But they've never produced. They've never. Well, they might have hatched and just been eaten by probably their own parents and various other fish. But I've never seen anything come of it. Basically, the only time I have had that, I had some success with Bangor cardinals years ago. My first ever tank, actually. The male was had babies in his mouth. And that's how you notice, because one of them will look weird, and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, it's babies. And one day I came downstairs and he didn't have any in his mouth. I looked around the tank and there was nothing there. I was like, oh, gutted. But one had escaped to the sump and survived. And I gave it to my neighbour and it got eaten. So I did have luck with Bangor cardinals. And supposedly you're supposed to get puts like some blue tack or putty, actually cover it in cocktail sticks so it looks like an urchin, because Bangor cardinals in the wild, babies hide in the spines of long spine urchins, and that's how they keep safe. I live in Bitton. Yeah. I don't actually live in Southampton. I live up in Woking, or near Woking anyway, but I do go to Southampton occasionally, very occasionally, not to the football stadium because the sports rubbish. Saints just like crap. Name is bigger really better regarding tank volume? Have you found your main tank to be noticeably more stable? Yeah, completely, 100%. This tank is a pain in the ass, this Fluval Evo. It's I say it's a pain in the ass. It just needs more maintenance. You need to test every week, and if you don't test every week, things will happen and things will change. And once you've tested every week, you probably need to make an adjustment. So you might need to. I've got no nitrate at the moment, so I've started dosing nitrate. So I need to test every week, probably twice a week for nitrate until I get it back up. Add some nitrate in if it's too low, or if it's too high, do something about that. Or if the phosphate's too high, do something about that. So you've got to make micro adjustments. So if you put a load of too much phosphate remover in a small tank like that, it'll strip it all out straight away. And if you don't put enough in, it won't make a dent. So you've got to get the balance right, and slowly change tiny little amounts until you get the balance right. So it's absolutely 100% a real thing that it's noticeably more stable. And my 150 litre water box is, I think 150 litres is the smallest I'd want in an ideal world. If that was 100 litres, I'd be very happy. I'd like one of those Red Sea Max Peninsula tanks, but it might be a bit too big for that space, to be fair. But 100 litres is really I don't know, 150 litres is the minimum size tank that I find easy to look after of my three, I should say. What frozen fish do you recommend for nano fish? Clownfish, royal grammar, chromis. They're not nano fish, I wouldn't say, especially not chromis, but I would feed them mysis. Clownfish will eat human flesh. These are right bastards. They always peck at me, but I find when I put my hand in the tank to move the coral around, whatever, they'll attack me straight away. But if I leave my hand in there for long enough, they get bored and go away. Oh man, it was so bad. 3-all at Highbury, whatever it's called, Emirates, on paper is a cracking result, but it's not enough. 3-1 up with 2 minutes to go. Oh, even a win might not have been enough. I think we've left it too late anyway, but I was gutted. Anyway, you and me are the only ones who want to talk about that. Would a foxface do great with 2 tangs, purple tang and mimic tang, in a 375? Oh, wow. 5 foot long, 375 litre. That's unusual. That must be a very slim tank. Foxface can be quite timid. So I would be careful about how you introduce them. If you can do it in an acclimation box, Prestige Reef's a big fan of that. Do that. That's not a massive tank. You've got a lot of swimming space, to be fair. You might be fine. But yeah, I think you'd be all right. That must be, what are the dimensions of that? Is that 150 centimeters by 45 by 45? Unusual. But I think you'll be all right. Introduce it carefully. Make sure you get a healthy one that's not too small and has got a bit of meat on him. You can often see them in the shops and they're really skinny, and you can see you can basically see their rib cage or their stomachs. You can see that on mine to an extent, but he's got a lot healthier. But make sure you get one that's got a bit of heft to him. Obviously, you don't want one too big, but if you're getting one this big, it's too small. When using your refloat, do you notice it putting more water in than removing? No, it does the other way around. I always find that I have to add back about 2 litres after it's finished. And I've never quite worked out why. Presumably it's because the pipes fill or something like, I don't know. And maybe it expands, I don't know. But no, I find that I have to add back about 2 litres, although it's not an awful lot of difference. It's hard work. EIY Kumar. It's very hard work. Just practice, upload a load of videos, do as many as you can. They will suck at first, but that's okay. That's the only way you're going to get better. Get a microphone, just a cheap lav mic, even a 10 quid lav mic that plugs into your mobile phone. Audio. People will watch a YouTube video with terrible video quality for a lot longer than they will watch a YouTube video with terrible audio quality. It's an instant click off for a lot of people. So 10 quid lav mic is the only piece of equipment I'd worry about getting. Then just use your phone and practice. And watch other YouTubers to see what you think they do well and copy those, and watch also to see what you think they don't do well and make sure you don't do the same things either. Often when people start, they try to make videos of like tank updates, is what I did, but you'll find that will only get you so far. And most people, there'll be a small community who are interested, but most people don't really care about your own little tank journey, because it's one of 1,000 people doing the same thing. So product reviews in the early days are very good, especially if you can tell people something that isn't listed on the other product reviews, and especially if you're completely honest and you talk about the good and the bad, which not everybody does. We know how to spend a Saturday night. Exactly right. Yeah. How much ROFOS do you run? I do it by eye. And how often do you change it? As often as it needs to, but I'm slack with it, so not as often as I should. The best thing to do is test, put a small amount in, test again a couple of days later, adjust. But you've really got to leave it, because it does take a little bit of time to take effect. So just testing constantly is the answer. And it's a bit trial and error is the best way, but it's a pain in the ass. Manoj Santosh, what 3D printer do you use? I use, and it's going in the background, so you might be able to hear it, a Prusa Mini. I bought an Ender 3 as my first one, but it was so loud. It was so unbearably noisy. And you turn it on and instantly the fan comes on at full speed. And I was like, is that broken? But that's just what it is. And the fan is just on permanently, even if it's not printing, if it's not heated up. It's so loud, it's unbelievable. And the Prusa is just 10 times better. Although I did get good print quality, to be fair, for the Ender. So if you can tolerate the sound, maybe that's worth saving a bit of money. What I would really like is a Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon, but they're £1,000, and I can't justify that. Would you recommend a Waterbox Cube 25? Are they 25 gallons? So probably 70, 80 litres after displacement. Yeah, they're all right. Smaller tanks are a pain in the ass. Bigger tanks are less of a pain in the ass. 3 foot is a nice size for a first tank. But yeah, they're perfectly fine. You just got to keep an eye on them, test regularly, and keep on top of it. Only coral. I've never done a tank only coral, so no idea. Do you need to cycle it? Well, Jake Adams always used to say no, but I mean, you'll add fish at some point, surely. Even if it's like a damsel to help with pests or whatever. How to save a slowly receding elegance coral? Make sure your water parameters are spot on first. Salinity first, check with a calibrated device. You've all seen my issues lately with an uncalibrated or not regularly enough calibrated Hannah checker. Phosphate, nitrate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. Do an ICP test to make sure you've got no heavy metals. That's often a sign. Check, or if you don't want to do an ICP test, check all your pumps. Check every piece of equipment. Take it apart completely to see if there's anything that's rusting, and feed it. But water quality is the first thing to start with. NB Reefing has a small animal free swimming in the sump. I thought it was a Bangai fry at first, but has never grown. Do copepods and amphipods free swim for a long period? No, they don't. There's one like worms and stuff like that are free swimming. I've seen freaky stuff, little white things free swimming in the sump before, and I've got no idea what they are. But if something's free swimming, it's weird it is coming out, because all the good stuff, good free cleanup crew like bristleworms, they just stay in the rock work and in the sand bed. So if it's free swimming, I'm not saying that it's bad, but I don't trust it. So yeah, I have 5 jellyfish. How big of a tank do I need? I got no idea. However, I've just turned that on. That's a fake jellyfish tank, but I got no idea. 150 by 50 by 50. Thank you. Okay, that's actually not as thin as I thought, but yeah, I would give it a crack. Fabio Silva, the Wolves centre forward. Would you recommend installing a used Profilux 3 on my tank? Never had one. This would be temporary. Really want to get Hydros when they're available. I'm not a fan of GHL software. I find it a little bit clunky, so that would put me off the Profilux. But their hardware is very good, and I had a GHL dosing pump, and it's the best dosing pump I've ever had. It's fantastic. But ask someone who's a GHL fan who likes it, and they'll be better placed to ask. Telegram's got a lot of GHL stuff. He's got a lot of time for it. So is Reef Bum and Prestige Reef. Actually, ask him tomorrow. My clownfish have just laid eggs. It's on a big rock, so I can't just take him out. What should I do? Leave it. Even taking them out and raising them is an obscene. It's like raising a child, only more work. Only they don't cry in the middle of the night. So yeah, just leave it. I would personally, and let nature take its course, i.e. them get eaten. Parwise versus Senai versus Apogee. Which one is better? Well, I mean, the Apogee is likely to be a lot more reliable and accurate because it's so much more expensive. The Senai is totally fine. I had a problem with mine reading really high recently. I sent it back to Senai a couple of weeks ago, and they fiddled around with it. We did something with it. They found that it was reading high, so I don't know if they recalibrated it or they changed something with it, but now it's reading right. And for the money, it gets you close enough. Because really, if it says 300 and the par is actually 250 or 350, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So that's probably enough. And I'd probably go with the Senai because they're cheap. But I want an Apogee M15, M5 110, M510Q, something like that. But they're a lot of money. So, Senai is probably not a bad bet. Are Hannah's chickens supposed to be calibrated? You can get calibration solutions, at least for the alkalinity one. I don't know if you can get them for all of them, but you can get a calibration solution that is just a blue blue dyed liquid, and you test it, and it should come out at like 7.8 or whatever alkalinity. So you can. I don't know if you can actually calibrate them, but you can check to see if it's reading correctly. But I've never calibrated them, and I don't know if you can. I believe you cannot. Gotta go. Good man. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to wrap up soon. Anywho, we've got 3 more questions, and then we're done. My yellow watchman goby stole a little piece of floating nori. Oh, cool. And my purple tang and mimic tang was sharing, and then the goby ran with a piece into a cave where they couldn't follow. Clever girl. That's cool. Like it. Andrew Noe, about the elegance coral problem. Water quality is good. I can't feed it because it doesn't catch food anymore. It may have elegance coral disease. Any dip? I've never had an elegance coral, to be honest, and I've never looked into elegance coral disease, so I'm afraid I can't help. Yeah, but thinking about selling my MQ510. How much do you want for it, and how old is it? Because you might have someone interested. Although I've spent a lot of money on YouTube equipment in the last couple of weeks, like an obscene amount of money, so I need to dial that down a little bit. Alex, I've got some of the rare Sunfire Monty. You wanting a cheap frag? Sunfire Monty. I'm not generally a massive fan of Monty. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. Sunfire Monty, is that Sunfire grafted Monty? Oh, Prestige Reef has that. Interesting. Add to stream. So this is on the Prestige Reef website. Is that it? I'm not really asked by that. It's nice, but yeah, yellow polyps, green and red, but don't really do anything for me, to be honest. And Monty's just a pain in the ass. I've been burnt because of my bloody Tropic Thunder. It's taken over my life. So thank God I got scared there. Yeah, we're this is not Sunday. Best fish for a water box. Oh, that's such a broad question that I can't really answer it. The best way to first start, that's a good size tank, a great size tank, in fact. So it gives you some options. I would want an algae eater in there. I would probably want a Tomini tang and a fox face. I have those fish in my 150 litre tank. But beyond that, I thought that was my Alexa alarm. Beyond that, choose fish that you want, that you think are the coolest. The way I do it, I go on Live Aquaria and I search by fish, and then I filter by, low aggression or tank size or whatever. I just look at all of the fish on Live Aquaria. They don't catalogue absolutely every fish available in the hobby. Alexa, stop. It is my alarm. That's my RODI filter as well. But I've got an auto shut off in place. That's okay. But I'll wrap it up because I don't want to flood my kitchen. So go on Live Aquaria, look through all the fish that they've got, and have a look and see what takes your fancy. Look at a load in shops. Really good idea just to go to your local fish shop. It's an excuse to go and look at fish as well. Go for a few weeks in a row, leave your wallet at home so you're not tempted to do any impulse buys, because if there's an awesome fish in there, you'll see it again. Don't worry, there'll be another one along in a month's time. So just have a look around and see fish in the flesh, observe them and see what you think looks cool. Do a bit of research. Blennies are cool. I'd have a blenny. I'd have a Midas blenny. Midas blennies are the most sociable. So I'll do that. What's the best salt? I use Tropic Marin Pro. I don't know if I'd call it the best salt, but it's good. The best salt, the two criteria that aren't necessarily the most scientific that I think you should go for are what matches your parameters most closely. So if your alkalinity is 8, try to find a salt that has an alkalinity of 8. That's what you want to keep it at. And is it for sale in your local fish shop? That's honestly a big deal. Can you get it easily? So that's my answer. It's not quite so, to be honest. Would you consider editing your lives down to a summary? I've done a couple of them, Tom. I did some clips in the early days, and I edited them down to like 10 minutes. But it takes to edit one of those videos. I've got to watch the whole thing. So that's 2 hours before I've even started editing. And then I've got to edit, and it would take me sort of probably 4 or 5 hours to do that. And they don't get big views at all. So it'd be too much effort, and I'd rather invest that time in other areas. So probably not, I'm afraid. I want to make the live streams shorter though. 2 hours is a long time. Getting almost an hour for this one. So an hour and a half would be good, but I know it's just easy to talk about fish for a long time. So I'll pipe fish good in big tank with decent flow. Supposedly not. It depends who you talk to. Some people say they're fine, some people say they're not. I've got 2 of the little ones, blue stripe maybe, in my water box with LPS flow, so not mega flow at all, and they're fine. But supposedly they don't like strong flow, but other people will say that they get by. So don't know. These are the only 2 I've ever had, and I've only had them for 2 months, so I can't, and they're not in high flow, so can't really tell you properly. Dragon Soul half opened last 2 days. Any ideas? Other torch coral looks perfectly healthy. Water's quality, same as before with the other guy with the elegance coral, to be honest. No, the only times my my torch corals looked unhealthy was when my salinity was all over the place, and they didn't like it one little bit. They reacted much more poorly than my other LPS corals. Torchu is about to get a 60-gallon tank. What would you choose? What tank? I already have 2 clownfish, sand sifting, goby, fire goby. What tank or what fish? Either way, whatever you want, basically, whatever you think is cool. If it's what fish, go on Live Aquaria. If it's what tank, 60-gallon. 60. There we go. I'm back. 60-gallon Red Sea Reefer 200 XL, maybe. Don't know. There's a few decent options. I was thinking about getting some zebra somas because they're awesome. It's a lot of fish for a small tank. Is my answer. Hey, Adam. Been watching your videos for a while now and wanted to say thank you for your help. You're welcome. It's Alex. Amazeballs Gunny Fire, says Rev Devil. Last question, I think. Oh, actually, no, 2 last questions. All right, fine. Let's go to an hour. Sod it. Do you know about the JBJ saltwater aquariums? Are they any good? Never heard of JBJ. JBJ, you've piqued my interest. JBJ salt water aquarium. JBJ aquariums. Are they available in the UK? It's talking in gallons. Is this an American website? They look all right. They look very similar to, they're all kind of rimless. In fact, they bring you with me on my journey. They look all right, all in one. That's a cheap pump. I'd replace that. That'll be noisy. They look okay. I don't know anything about them, I'm afraid. And is that the only one they've got? Nanocube, desktop, they're all small. Not sure I like that. Is that an empty side panel? I don't know what that's for. They look all right. Don't know anything about them, so I can't tell you anything of use. Lincoln Towns got an ICP test back. Came back high chlorine somehow. Chlorine, okay. RODI water checked, which is what I was going to say. So not sure where that would come from. Don't know. Also 0 nickel and zinc. I wouldn't bother dosing nickel and zinc personally. Yeah, wouldn't bother. Thing is with ICP tests, there are some people who do the old a drip of this, 2 drips of that, and all that sort of stuff, and testing every week and all that sort of. I'm just not into that. I just don't. I think it's too much. I think the basics are more important, and don't overthink it. And you're never going to get everything perfect with that. It's hard enough getting things like nitrate and phosphate at a right level, let alone something you have to ICP test for. Are the ICP tests accurate? Are they accurate from test to test? So yeah, I don't know. Not sure I'd be doing that personally. Ask someone who's more into trace element peeping. What's your update electric cost per month for your peninsula? No idea. There is I made a video on it about that was running costs for my 100-gallon tank and my 10-gallon tank. So go and watch that. The new lights are using a lot less electricity than I thought they would. Actually, they're quite efficient considering how much power they put out, but they're expensive. So it would be crazy to buy some expensive lights to save a few quid on electricity. If you want to save money, buy a cheaper light. But yeah, watch my video on it. That's the latest position. I'm getting a Red Sea Reefer Gen 2. Do you think I can put a blue tang in there, a hippo tang? Yeah, I mean, they'll outgrow it after, I don't know, a few years. But for now, they'll be for starters, they'll be fine. I don't really like blue tang. I've never kept one, I should say. But I think that's fine. Getting so many people into the hobby. Be included just hit a year. Oh, I think you're saying you've just hit a year as a YouTube member. Oh, does that mean you get a special color? Anyway, this guy's had JBJ before. They are good. Might be restricted to USA though. How are you liking the refractory lights? I'm not going to say anything until I've done the video because I want to do a thorough job of it. The blues look phenomenal. Really, really good. And I said I'm not going to say anything. I'm saying stuff now. One of the reasons I changed was because I just didn't like the way my last light setup looked on camera. And I found I never wanted to take photos of it. And I was reluctant to get video footage. Especially the white lights just looked a bit crap on camera. And even on the blues, they didn't look great. And on the blues for these lights, they look amazing on camera and to the eye, for photos and videos. So I love that. That's number one goal achieved. But there are downsides, of course, same with every light. So I'll tell you about everything. Thank you for your videos. I enjoy the top 5+1. Vote of confidence in the slightly different setup. Good to know. Hashtag Team Alex. Yeah, come on. Brad White TV. We're almost at an hour. Love the content. How many fish can I have in a 180 litre Aqua One? Maybe fish around 3 or 4 inches fully grown. Not many. Oh, I don't know. 180 litre. Well, I've got a 150 litre water box, and actually water box say it's 55 gallons. Alexa, what's 55 gallons in litres? 210.
55 imperial gallons is about 250 litres.
250? Well, there's no way. I've measured it. It's 150 litres. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Aqua One was around the same size as mine. I have Fox Face, which will outgrow it. Tomini Tang, which will outgrow it. Banggai Cardinal, which will be fine. And then 2 little pipefish. So I have 6. And that is a nice amount. I've got relatively high nutrients, to be fair. I don't think I'd want to go many more than that, personally. So that's my answer. No more than 6. 50 quid are a unit versus more expensive. A 50 quid one will probably just be reverse osmosis, not DI. Might have a DI stage, but you want the more stages you can get, the better. If you can get a couple of sediment filters, that's wicked. If you can get 2 sediment filters, 2 carbon blocks, 2 DI resins, and 2 membranes, you're in business. Membranes is probably less important to have 2, but if you can have 2 of the carbon blocks, sediment filters, and DI resin, which is what I've got, and it's bloody massive, then just the more stages, the better, basically. And a booster pump. Booster pump is hugely important. They're quite expensive, but they're just fantastic. They make them a lot more efficient. So you'll burn through DI resin, which is relatively expensive, less quickly. and they'll produce water 10 times as fast, not literally 10 times fast, but 5 times as fast. I think the Gen 2 Red Sea tanks look really good. In short, I made a video reacting to them. I've not seen any in the flesh, have I? I think I have seen one in the flesh since then, but I've not properly seen them. But I think they look really good. I like my Red Sea tank. If you were setting up a 6x3x2 tank tomorrow, oh God, I'd love a 6x3x2 dream size, 3 foot front to back. Oh, mate. Excellent choice, Lee White. What lights would you use? Mixed reef, but more SPS. I would have 2 strip lights either side. Possibly, I'll reserve judgment until I've tried the AI blade, but potentially I would have 2 AI blade glows, 6 foot versions, and I would have down the middle Kessels, 3 Kessel A500Xs, because man, they just look so good. But there's just loads of options. The refractory ones are really good. The Radions are very popular. There's just loads of options. But I think that's what I would do. Because I feel like I've never tried the blade Kessel combination, but I feel like that might be the ultimate. The trouble is, and I've been chasing light perfection for years, and I haven't found it because it doesn't exist. There are drawbacks of every single light setup. So if you're like me and you end up going, oh, I don't quite like the blues, I don't like quite the whites, all of these things, you'll chase the dream for all your life and you'll never catch it. So I just love Kessel. They're just wicked. But on their own, I don't like them. So I would have something in the middle, 4 like puck style lights in the middle, whatever brand you want, and then some LED strips either side. Maybe the Reef-Roids strips, 1 Reef-Roids strip either side. Fish trap recommendations for a lawnmower blenny. Oh, that might be tricky to catch. Aquamedic fish trap is the one I have. It's about 50-60 quid, but it is good. And if you put something in there like a bit of rock that's got algae in it, he might go in there, but you might find it difficult because they don't tend to swim out into the water column much. So you might have to put it on the sand bed, but might be a tricky fish to catch. Do you have any experience with hermit crabs as a cleanup crew? Yes. What do you think of them? I have at least 1 or 2 in all of my tanks. They don't tend to play nice with snails though. And snails are much better in my opinion. Actually, I've just realized I'm going to turn my booster pump off. I think my water sensor on my auto top off will have turned this off already, but just in case, I'm going to turn the booster pump off, and that will kill the system because I've got it set up with a high pressure sensor. Smart life. These CASA, what are they called? CASA smart plugs. They are generally very good, but every now and then they fail because they're not especially good quality. So watch out for them. And when they fail, sometimes they go on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off until you realize. And sometimes they just turn off. So don't have any of those on a mission critical piece of equipment. Lights is fine, but return pump, auto top off. You happen to know the price of the Refractory Smart Tester? I don't. I know as much as you do. So on the Refractory family page on Facebook, they kind of hinted. I think all they said was it's going to be less than a KH keeper, which is like, well, yeah, I should hope so. And the KH keeper is what, 800 quid? So it's going to be less than 800 quid. Does that mean it's going to be 50 quid or 799 quid? I don't know. If it's expensive, the thing is, if it's too cheap, it'll be crap. And if it's too expensive, it'll put people off. So they've got to strike a balance. But I don't know. I don't know how much it is. I don't know. It's the short answer. But I think we're going to find out relatively soon. What do you think of what do you do with fish when they outgrow your tank? Hasn't ever really happened. I've moved some fish on that would have outgrown the tank, but I would take them back to my local fish shop or sell them online. You'll always be able to find someone. If you can just give them away at the end of the day if they really are big. Canister filters. Check out the video I did on Abyss Aquatics. They run a canister filter. I've never used one, so I can't really tell you. They're probably a bit of a faff to clean and maintain from my freshwater days. I didn't ever clean it because couldn't be asked, because it was a pain in the backside, whereas the sump is easier to access. How many fish for a 300 litre? See earlier comment. I think I've made a video about what fish will I choose for Red Sea Reefer 350. So what's that? What are your parameters in your peninsula are you happy with? What are the parameters on your peninsula? Alkalinity is about 8, 7.5, something like that. 8.5. That's fine. Don't really care. Calcium and magnesium, couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but probably about in the rough ballpark. Phosphate is too high, 0.2, 0.3 probably at the moment. Nitrate is about 5 or 6, which is fine. But I don't stress too much. It's just found its groove, and it is what it is. The parameters are what they are. I don't want things like phosphate to get too high, but as long as nutrients don't bottom out, I don't really care exactly where they are. I like the idea of the Redfield ratio, but the reality is achieving that is very, very difficult. So I'm going to wrap this up. Let me have a look and see if there's anything else. Last question about water changes. How often do you do a water change on your tank? Every week, 10%. On that tank, I do every week 20%. On the water box 150 litre, I do every week 15%. Sometimes I get lazy and don't do them on these tanks upstairs, but I've got an automatic water changer, a refloat for the one downstairs, and I do it every week without fail. Right, that's it. We've had an hour. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for helping me out with my test. Catch you all tomorrow. Cheers, guys. Bye.